This is the Democratic Republic of the Congo. It's the second largest country in Africa and perhaps the world's largest failed state. Most people call it
one of the richest countries in the world.
But that's usually where most commentaries end. You see, upon looking deeper into this country and the reality of its people, I discovered something. The DRC is more than the world's largest failed state or the poorest rich country. The DRC is a mirror, a reflection of the hopes and aspirations of the black man, his desires for freedom, for expression, for rulership. And perhaps what we see here is a glimpse of the future, Africa's future. This is a very somber story, one that I'm telling with a heavy heart. And perhaps by the end of it, you will see the Congo through a very different lens. It all began in 1885 at the Berlin Conference. Belgian King Leopold II finally convinced the European powers to hand him a personal estate nearly the size of Western Europe. He named it the Congo Free State. But there was nothing free about it. Leopold would go on to commit one of the most horrifying genocides in history. Atrocities so gruesome they would make even Hitler jealous. And he didn't do it for politics. He did it for profits. From Congo's ivory and rubber, Leopold became one of the richest men in Europe, and in just 23 years, over 20 million Congolese had died, not in a war but from brutal exploitation. But as news of the horrors in Congo began to surface, international pressure began mounting on Leopold, and in 1908, Leopold was finally forced to hand over his private colony to the Belgian state. It was renamed the Belgian Congo. But even after Leopold had died a very peaceful death in 1909, his methods didn't. Forced labor, violence, unchecked godlike power still remained. The aim was very clear. It wasn't to build a functional country or even to build a colony. It was to build a pipeline that funnels resources back to Europe, a ruthless extraction machine where human lives were just another cost of production. So it shouldn't be surprising that by the time of independence in 1960, the Congo, with a population of 15 million people, had only 17 university graduates, 3 doctors, 0 lawyers, around 0 underqualified nurses, about 3,000 paramedics, and just a few hundred basic level teachers. Only 136 Congolese held any position in the civil service. The Belgians had made sure that the Congo would be independent in name but crippled in structure. And just 6 days after independence, the cracks began to show. A mutiny broke out in the Congolese army demanding equal pay and the dismissal of Belgian officers. Instead of respecting Congolese sovereignty, Belgian troops intervened without any authorization from the central government. It became very clear that the hard-won Congo independence was still very fragile. The revolutionary Prime Minister Patrice Lumumba condemned the Belgian action as not only have they violated Congolese territory, they have committed an act of aggression. But far down south in the mineral-rich province of Katanga, the premier Moise Tshombe welcomed the intervention, and one day later he declared Katanga's secession from the republic. The Congolese army, with almost zero combat experience, was unable to quell the rebellion and unify the country. By July 14, 1960, the situations had escalated that Lumumba had to request military help from the United Nations. The UN sent peacekeepers, but they refused to intervene militarily. Some 1 month later, South Kasai, another resource-rich province, also seceded, this time under one Albert Kalonji. Meanwhile, at the national level, the Congolese leadership was tearing itself apart. A fierce conflict broke out between the Federalist President Joseph Kasavubu and the Pan-Africanist Prime Minister Patrice Lumumba. Lumumba dreamed of a united Congo, free from Western interference. Kasavubu, on the other hand, was more moderate and more open to Western advice. So on September 5, 1960, amidst a series of infighting, Kasavubu dismissed Lumumba as Prime Minister. In turn, Lumumba called the move unconstitutional and instead dismissed Kasavubu as president. You see, the Congo operated under a semi-presidential system. The president was head of state while the prime minister was head of government. Both men had claimed the right to dismiss the other, and neither was interested in backing down. This political deadlock created the perfect opening for a lurking serpent, a man who had been watching quietly, waiting for his moment, Joseph Mobutu Sese Seko. On September 14, 1960, backed by Belgian troops and funded by the CIA, Mobutu staged a coup. He placed both Kasavubu and Lumumba under house arrest. This same Mobutu had been personally mentored and promoted by Lumumba himself. Mobutu quickly dissolved parliament and installed a so-called technocratic government. But Lumumba, being Lumumba, wasn't ready to just sit quietly. He attempted to flee to his stronghold in Stanleyville, now Kisangani, to rally support. Having dodged UN troops and Mobutu's men, Lumumba made it as far as the Sankuru River before being captured. He and two loyalists, Maurice Mpolo and Joseph Okito, were tied up, beaten for hours, denied medical help and paraded for public humiliation. On January 17, 1961, the men were secretly flown to Katanga, the breakaway province backed by Belgian settlers and corporations, who all had a common enemy in Lumumba. That same evening in Lubumbashi, then Elizabethville, they were once again beaten, this time by Belgian and Katangan officers. Later that night, the three men were taken to a quiet clearing, tied to trees, and executed by firing squad. All this with direct involvement of the Belgian government and covert CIA assistance. To hide the crime, their bodies were buried, then dug up and dissolved in sulfuric acid, leaving only his truth as souvenir. And as for the situation in Katanga, only after Lumumba's assassination did the UN decide to intervene militarily in Katanga. Sensing defeat, Maurice Chombe fled into exile. He would later return in 1965 to form a coalition government with Joseph Kasavubu, but it didn't last. Mobutu came back, and this time he came to stay. He seized full power, beginning a 31-year reign marked by authoritarianism, corruption, and what he called Zionization, a hollow attempt to give the illusion of African independence. You see, the story of the DRC is not just a tragedy, it's a template, a framework designed to keep Africa in chains. Look at any African country and you would find the same pattern: sellouts. Men who put their personal ambition above national welfare. They are everywhere: North, South, East, West, and Central Africa, past, present, and if we let it, the future. We cannot change the past, but we live in the present, and we must make sure that the past never becomes our present. Never again. Belgium's colonial history is awful, but it pales in comparison to French brutality in Africa, particularly in Algeria. We actually made a video about this and you should be able to watch it right now. Otherwise, thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next one.